Welcome back to the Pop Culture Preservation Society, Melissa Gilbert. We're so happy to have you. We spoke with you several months ago about your book, Back to the Prairie, A Home Remade, A Life Rediscovered, a book that inspired us to go find our inner half pint. So thank you for that. And in that conversation, we stumbled upon a topic that lit a fire under all of us, including you, and that was your role in the 1979 version of The Miracle Worker. And we got off that Zoom with you, and all three of us were like, oh my God, we have to have her back. So thank you again for coming back.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always fun to spend time with you ladies.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh,
That's so
my
nice
heart.
of you.
Thank you.
Carolyn, make sure you clip that out, and we'll
Yes,
clip that out. We'll just use it again.
And I'll make it my ringtone.
That's right. Oh, gosh.
Okay, so we want to talk to you about how this movie came to be. But first, I need to know something, because it turns out that all three of us had this sort of rabid fascination with Helen Keller when we were children. And so we need to know, A, did you also have a rabid fascination with Helen Keller? And B, was this a 70s thing? Like, how she was like almost a pop culture hero to us in the 70s.
I mean, I certainly knew who she was. I don't think I was a fangirl at the time. I think I were. I clearly remember reading about her, and I think, for just women in general, especially young girls, her story, like Laura Ingalls Wilder's story, like Anne Frank's story, the stories of young women who overcome are incredibly inspiring. Inspires us. It inspired me, certainly. Those were why I played, obviously those three roles. Laura Ingalls Wilder I stumbled into, but chose to play Helen Keller and chose to play Anne Frank. And when I say chose, I don't mean I necessarily chose. So now I'll tell you how it came to be.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. When I was 14, my mom hired an actual manager for me. I had a manager named Ray Katz, and he managed the Osmond family and Dolly Parton. He and his nephew Sandy.
I have my Jolene shirt on.
Yeah, there you go. He managed Cher and Anthony Newley and just a whole bunch of Joan Rivers. And so I signed with them, and I was the youngest client. And my mom said, listen, when we meet with Ray Katz, we're going to talk about what you want to do. And I want us to, it was kind of her idea to start my production company. And she said, I think the first role we should see if we can do for you is for you to play Helen Keller. Now, at that point, I had not seen The Miracle Worker, but I certainly knew who Helen Keller was. And my first reaction was, oh, that'd be great. And about an hour later, I was going, how am I going to do that? Ugh. That's scary. And then I watched the original Miracle Worker, and I got even more terrified. But I thought, I think I can do this. I can make this work. So we sat down with the man who eventually became Uncle Ray Katz, and he said, so what do you want to do? And before my mom could even say a word, I said, I want to play Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker.
Wow.
And I want to produce it. And my mom was like, what I told her we were going to do.
This is amazing. You're 14 years old. When I was 14 years old, I was probably like, I don't know, concerned with, who I was going to not want to skate with at the roller rink or something.
Right.
Like, you were 14, and I love how you just said, I want to produce it, and I want to play Helen Keller. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then ran outside to go roller skating on the paddle tennis court with my friends.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Confused things. I was still, a teenage girl in the 70s. So Ray said, well, let me see what we can do. And he got the rights, and all the technical stuff happened. And then he, I think, came to us and said, how would you guys feel if we could get Patty Duke to play Annie Sullivan? And I said, that'd be amazing. Scary. It just kept getting scarier and scarier. And then the next thing he said was, I think we should do it as a play first before we do the movie. And I hadn't even been on stage yet, so that was even scarier. So there I was, 14 years old with my production company, getting ready to produce and star in my first movie and play Helen Keller opposite Patty Duke. But the end result was my first preview. The director, Paul Aaron, had staged my entrance so that I was entering from center stage, where Annie says, Annie Sullivan says, "Where's Helen?" And someone says, "Well, here comes Helen now." So I entered from center stage and ran straight down stage to 0, right at the center, at the edge of the stage with my arms out. And I did it the first time in front of an audience, and the front 3 rows stood up to catch me.
Oh my God.
This is the greatest thing I have ever felt in my life.
Yeah.
They're all mine.
Right. That immediate, also, you
Yes.
said you'd never been on stage before. So that immediate gratification of being in front of an audience, maybe that's where this
Right.
all comes from, that now you love performing on stage and you have so much in your career. But that's where it started.
Yeah, nothing like that's happened to me on stage. I mean, I've done some awesome, some beautiful plays and really well done stuff, but something about that piece at that time in my life, and then with Anna there, Patty Duke's real name was
Right.
Anna. With Anna there and the incredible cast that we had and just that whole experience. I've done a lot of plays, but I've never done a play where every single performance, the audience didn't make a sound. Nobody cleared a throat.
Wow,
Nobody
that's
unwrapped a
amazing.
candy. Nobody moved. I didn't hear shuffling. They were barely breathing because it was just so powerful. And what it did for us was, by the time we got to the set to do the movie, we all were seamless and just in the pocket. It was just a question of shooting it.
And your
I mean,
confidence had to have been so boosted from all the response you got on stage.
I felt super comfortable, super at ease, and I was so nervous before opening night too. When we did the play, by the time we got to the movie, it was like whatever.
Yeah.
On opening night, I mean, I think I probably had IBS for about a week.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Relatable. Yeah.
Couldn't sleep, just a wreck. And after, I made it through the entire performance. And after, when we were going to the opening night party, I couldn't go because my intestines were.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, relatable. You said, Michelle, like,
Yes.
My godparents would say that I had a nutty duty.
Oh, that's a soundbite for us.
Yeah, but I'm talking, the whole movie is tremendously emotional and physical. At one point, you whack Patty Duke so hard that her lip splits, and it looks like we had to rewind. We're like, I don't think that was fake. Like, my husband's like, please ask Melissa Gilbert if she actually injured Patty
Yeah,
Duke.
did
So
you
that's
get
one
hurt?
thing.
That's a
but I
great
do want,
question.
not to mention all just the thrashing and the near constant fighting and battling with Patty Duke. I love the choice that they always had your hair down. They didn't have it in a braid. They didn't have it in a ponytail. So that just made that even heightened more, because in so many scenes, Patty's having to like push her hair back. But yeah, so we know how you prepared with Jeff with the blindfold and the earplugs. How did you prepare for the emotional aspect of the role and the physical aspect of the role?
The physical stuff was hard. It was very exhausting. And we got hurt a lot, especially
Did
during
you?
the play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now, I was 14 and bouncy. I mean, I'm still basically partially rubber in my bones. Anna was not, and she wore we had a bad back and a back brace. Also, when they did the original movie with Anna and Anne Bancroft, Anna's tiny person. She was as an adult. As a child, she was even tinier. I'm not as tiny. She and I were basically the same height when we did the movie. So they put her in heels and lifts. So she's doing all that stuff in heels and lifts with a back brace and lifting giant 14-year-old me off the ground and thrashing me about. I mean, I had to learn how to help her a little bit, how to kind of leap when she lifted. But also there was a measure of caution there too, because if I leaped when she wasn't ready, I'd hit her in the chin with my shoulder. So it was all very slowly choreographed. That big dining room fight scene on stage, I think we worked that for 3 weeks before we were ready.
Wow.
It took us 5 days to shoot it.
That's what I was going to
Oh.
ask. How long? You'd like to think it was one and done, but I guess not. Golly.
Well, and how long was it in the movie? I mean, it is a significant chunk of time. This is not something they gloss over.
5-10
Yeah.
minutes. That's a lot.
And that's a lot for one scene.
Yeah, it's a lot of footage too.
It was that also I wondered how much of that was choreographed, because Patty Duke, and here's where I'll set up the scene a little bit more. Sorry to interrupt you, Michelle. The scene really is the pinnacle of the movie, and the thing that is so memorable, because I mean that's an Emmy moment for both of you. It's really incredible. It's in the dining room on Annie Sullivan's first day of work, and it's dinner time, and prior to Annie Sullivan coming, Helen Keller's way of eating was to walk around the table and just grab food off of people's plates and put it in her mouth. And that was just what was allowed to take place. And Annie Sullivan was like, it doesn't need to be this way. She can learn to eat. She can learn to eat. And they're like, no, she can't. And so Annie Sullivan insists that she sits in a chair and uses a spoon. Well, this becomes very violent as Helen resists her, and Annie sends the entire family out of the room, and they begin a knockdown, drag-out fight of Helen resisting, falling off a chair, Annie picking her up, putting her back in the chair, putting a spoon in her hand, throwing the spoon, hitting, punching, spitting. I mean, it's just
The hair, so much hair.
So much hair. And I have to tell you, this is another place where it differed for me as a child and as an adult. As a child, I was riveted. As an adult, I was close to tears. I was really choked up.
Yeah.
And I'm choking up right now just thinking about it, because it was so emotional, and you both committed so hard. Hard. So, back to my question. That was a long-winded question. How much of that was choreographed?
So much of it was choreographed because we had to be so careful not to really hurt each other badly. I mean, we hurt each other. We were covered in elbow pads and knee pads and all that stuff, but we were always bruised. The slapping across the face, there was no real way to choreograph it. We just had to do it. And so we did it. And we rang each other's bells a couple times. Well, the only thing we really were encouraged to do was to stay away from the ears, because if you slap someone in the ears, you can't hear for like 15 minutes, which is not good on stage, especially. But we really wailed on each other hard. And there was really no way to fake it. We slapped each other on stage. We slapped each other in the movie. And each
Did you have to like hug it out afterwards? Like,
oh no, we knew we loved each other. No, it was totally okay. We were that part of it was totally fine. In fact, we had to trust each other more than people who play lovers do. I see this with Alice Margrim all the time. I had to trust her more than anybody else on that show because we beat the living daylights out of each other. And we could really have hurt one another, but even more so with Anna.
Melissa, you've done countless TV shows, movies, plays. How does this role of Helen Keller rank for you in your, entire, basically career?
I don't want to say I peaked at 14 because that's just too depressing. But I peaked at 14.
It was good work.
I feel like that was because it was such an incredible experience, my first time on stage and playing that role and being able to play it the way I did, and just the confluence of all the things that were brought in to help me do that, from my relationship with Anna to Paul Aaron, the director, to Jeff Corey and my mom and my brother, who was there annoying the hell out of me the whole time, and my baby sister was there, and my grandmother was there, and it just that whole experience, and then the movie, and then having it do as well as it did, and being nominated for an Emmy, and having the movie win, and having Anna win, and the totality of the experience is something I'll never have again. And it really solidified my desire to continue in this business and be an actor and a producer and continue to tell stories. And so it will always be that it catapulted me forward in so many ways. Wow. And I'm nowhere near retiring, and I'm sure there's a lot of really cool, fun stuff ahead. But that not just the role, but the experience of it was life-changing.
I was going to say life-changing, and I'm sure things you learned on that set, not only things like acting techniques, but how to walk through life. you learned while you were filming that, and I think that's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
How
I
that must have been.
just remembered we had a screening of it that we hadn't seen it finished yet. And we had a cast and crew screening. It was the same crew that did Little House on the Prairie. We just rolled everyone right over in hiatus and they all shot it. And Mike Landon came, and I hadn't seen the movie yet, and I was sitting next to him, and I was maybe between my grandfather and my mother, and Mike was there, and Anna was there, and the movie ended, and of course the audience was just silent the whole time, and the movie ended, and everybody just screamed and applauded, and I lost it and burst into tears and collapsed into my mom, who was sobbing, and then I like crawled across her to Anna, and we just like held on to each other sobbing.
Oh.
And then I finally got myself together. I can barely even tell the story to kind of like greet the rest of the room. And I turned around and Mike was standing there and he was drenched in tears. And he just kept looking at me and going, I've never seen anything like this in my life. I cannot get over this.
Okay, you just made me cry.
And it was, and me too. I'm done. It was such a hugely validating moment too. Because he was my father figure, and he was my mentor, and he was the actor producer that I looked up to most of anyone in the world. And he kept looking at me like, this is my kid. I can't believe my kid.
Yes, I bet he was so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you.
Proud of you. He had Ralph. He was the
owner of Ralph.
Ralph's owner.
Yes. So we, speaking of Dean Butler, have a question for you. Who is a better kisser, Rob Lowe or Dean Butler?
This is so mean.
So mean.
Question, because
You can answer. You can be very politically
honest.
correct, but we'd love it
Yes.
if you were honest.
Rob Lowe.
Oh, good. Thank God. Oh, thank God.
I don't know. Now his wife will never let him talk to me again.
You're not coming to Thanksgiving anymore.
Melissa, if you don't know, you're not the only other one Rob Lowe has kissed. So she's gonna have to just get. She's gonna have to.
He's kissed more women than me and Cheryl.
Wait, can
I
I
was
read you
not
something?
ready. I was not ready for you to kiss Dean Butler.
Can I just
I
read
just
you
got it.
Neither was
something?
I. I was not ready for that either.
Well, that's why I want to just read you something. Listeners, I'm going to be reading Melissa her words from her book, wonderful book called Prairie Tale. Was this your first book?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys, it's so good. Okay, it's dated because it happened, another husband ago and, back before, but so good. I remember when I got this book, I devoured it in like one weekend because it's written so well. But anyway, when we came up with this question, I had to flip through because I thought I remembered that the way you wrote it was so funny. She says this in the book, Prairie Tale. Still, on the first day I opened a script and saw the name Almanzo Wilder among the characters, I got a sick feeling in my stomach that didn't go away for the next 2 seasons. The nausea was all nerves. I knew I was going to have to show affection, kiss, and at some point go to bed with a guy, when in real life I was a knock-kneed, flat-chested 15-year-old who looked 13, still wore rubber bands and a retainer in her mouth, and had never gone out with, kissed, or even held hands with a boy. And suddenly, I was supposed to get it on, prairie style? I just would love to know. Get it on prairie style. But wait. It goes on. Because then Melissa's talking about how she was excited that maybe it was going to be like, they're going to cast someone who's also 15, 16. But then came Dean's first day of work, and when we finally met, I was hit by a perfect storm of disappointment, fear, anger, and nausea. I can imagine what my face looked like. No, I don't want to imagine. It couldn't have been nice. I'd expected the producers to cast a contemporary of mine. Instead, they had cast a man! Exclamation point. That's right. Dean was a grown-up man. I looked at him as if he'd risen from Dr. Frankenstein's lab. He was in his 20s. He shaved, drove a car, and lived in his own apartment. Oh, my God. I love that so much because I will tell you.
No wonder we were so uncomfortable.
I just wasn't, it was way too soon. It's too much. As we say in my family, it's just too many words. I have too many words.